Hello, welcome to another video, and thanks for clicking on the link. What I want to talk about today really is official narratives again. It's this area of Scarborough. It's in the South Bay, anywhere in the South Bay that you're at. You can see this blue bridge and the Grand Hotel. I first became interested really. That's how it is now. I'll get on to that in a sec. This is how it was early Victorian times. It was before the Grand Hotel. As you can see, that tower there for reference. This is what it's like now. This here, we draw a line in front of there, right up to the house, along the road. All this area is now a massive underground car park, but it's not what it used to be. Press on. This is the picture I took myself. I took the picture, as I quite often do with pictures, and for no particular reason, only the fact I'll look over them again one day and, I might find something interesting. And what interested me about this picture was this building here, the museum building. I wanted to research that because I didn't believe the official narrative, and how this subject really just mushrooms out into all sorts of different things. This next picture I'll show you just totally blew my head off, because this building here that I was interested in, suddenly the interest went out the window, and that's this building, this picture here. You can clearly see the tower here. I'll reference that. I'll call it Sunstone Building. I'll show you a few pictures that may not show you any landmark as such, but I'll reference where these two buildings are. But when I saw this, it just really blew me away. This is from the 67, I think, just before it was all demolished. And after seeing this, my attention hasn't come back for that building. Yeah, I'm not really that interested at the moment. But there's the house. It's a beautiful house, and it's referenced in so many pictures. This is what's responsible for these big open spaces. As you can see, these are roofs of houses, the very, very tops of houses. And you can see over that side, that archway, I'll show you in a later picture when all this was demolished. But as you can see, it's not only underground here, it's also going off that way as well. Now this is a purpose-built, as we're told, Victorian aquarium, underground aquarium. Now this place is massive, it's huge. Apart from basically like the sea life centres I think of today, it was basically one of them, but underground. Now the official narrative is it was built in Victorian times. 1877 is when it opened. I'm showing you this because this is where things start to fall apart really. You can see a museum at the top here. See Sandstone House. This, it's a 2¼ acre site, this underground site that was built. I might be out by 10 or 20 foot either way, but this is roughly the size of this Victorian underground complex that was built. Now, if you're, as I'll show you in pictures as we go along, this complex was pretty tall, pretty high. So what you're going to have to do is, before you can build anything, you're going to have to dig out all that. Now it's after the bridge was put in, so you'd be undermining the foundations of the bridge, I was thinking. But in mid-Victorian times, to dig out that amount and have to go down maybe 80 foot, maybe even more, to start on the foundations of the building that you plan to build. And it's not only that, once the building has been built, they then bury it again. and it makes no sense whatsoever at all. But this gives you the size of this underground aquarium, where that's actually where the aquarium office used to be. Right, just after, not long after the aquarium, it wasn't doing too well, so it was bought out. It was bought out by the bloke that owns the Winter Gardens of Blackpool, and he turned it more into a leisure complex as opposed to just an underground aquarium. And I'll give you some idea of the size and what was down there. You know, you've got Monkey House, Avery's, Sea Alligator Ponds, swimming pools, theatres, skating rinks, mini roller coaster, concert hall, reading rooms, and the largest fish tank in the world, measuring 36 foot square. So this is a massive complex. This is the top of part of what's been buried. Notice the metalwork there as well. This is the Blue Bridge. So what would have had to do, if you stick with the official narrative, is all this would have had to have been dug out. You know, thousands upon thousands of tons of mud would have had to have been dug out at a time whereas all you had was horses and carts, picks and shovels. You know, God knows how long it would have taken, but that's what we're expected to believe. This is another picture where it was the aquarium, and it shows you the size really. These are the tops of houses, these. They've supposedly filled part of it in, and a tramway over the top of it. You've got the very, very tops of buildings there, but I'll stick on this picture for a second because what used, before they decided to dig all this out, so to say, there was a watercourse that used to come straight down here. It was a beck. Now there's a lot of hill area around here that would have all drained into this beck. So before they've undertook this bloody big engineering project, they would have first of all had to get rid of that water supply, rather divert it somewhere, or whether it runs even deeper than these. And all, you know, this road here, all from up the town, would have come down from the hills on this side of the valley. It would have come down, and you know, water straight down the middle. Now I know a couple of coastal towns a bit closer to home whereby they do have these type of stream channels that for 10 months of the year they're dry, but during the winter months they become like raging rivers. They really do. So before this was undertaken, they had to get rid of that water, which I can't find anything at all in the history books about that whatsoever. This is just a view in Victorian times. Slightly different angle, but as you can clearly see, all the tops of these buildings right the way along here. Right the way along. And you have all this side that's open as well. Hey, up, my machine's playing up. Yeah, that's just another one. But what struck me with this picture, I've already done a two-part, one on the Grand, but if you have a look at the antenna on top of the Grand there. But there again, this is another picture. You can see all this down here, the roofs of these houses. It's no secret. It's just part of the feature of the town. That's just looking at it from another angle, really. But you've still got the roofs of your buildings here. The actual tower that I keep talking about, that's just here. Excuse me. That's just another picture. The tramway's already been put down, and it's looking up the valley, really. That's where the water would have came from. Lovely picture in Victorian times. All the tops of the buildings showing. That's just a picture of the painting I've just shown you. And that's just a coloured in version, really. Nothing special. Just the metalwork on top of the ground. But as you can see, these walls stop people falling down, however deep it is. It's just another postcard. And there again, just another picture of this looking from the sea area. You've got your roofs here. This is the water direction it would have come. You're also in bad weather, you have your water coming from this direction, you have water coming from that direction. So if there's been a mud event, you know, you're at the bottom of the hill here, it's where it's going to be deepest. Right, inside we go. These are just a few pictures of inside the building. I'll whiz through them so you can see the type of structure we're talking about. Now this is all subterranean levels, this is all below the street. That gives you some idea of the immense size of the place. Now all this is buried, was buried. The direction the water would have come in, like I mentioned on previous pictures, would have come in this direction. This is basically looking from the sea here, right back up the valley. So it was an immense place, and you look at the height of him, and look at the height of the vaulted ceilings, and then you've got mud on top of that, so you can build your tramways. Doesn't make much sense to me. For a brand new purpose-built building, which is what it was supposed to be. So now it's the impression of the same. I mean, they almost glow in the previous picture. You know, these stars here. There's another one down the bottom there as well, I've just noticed. But, you know, star there, pyramids there. These are actual photos by the looks of what it was like inside. It was really, you know, a classy place. I mean, goodness knows what that is up the top here. No idea who that fella is, but display cases of some sort. But as you can see, it's a very high building, and to build a building of that splendour and then bury it again doesn't make sense at all. This gives you some idea of how deep it is. The tramway above, early 1900s, it collapsed. The tram's gone plummeting down through it into the levels below. But if I can just blow this up a bit. Not only it's quite a depth down, but these actually look like the exterior of buildings to me. Now, if this is an underground complex, purpose built, why would you have exterior walls of buildings like that? And if you look over this side, that almost looks like a church window. So I'm pretty undecided with that picture. I mean, it's an official picture, it's where the tram went through. And that does actually look, I know it's took a nosedive, but it looks as if it's breaking through the floor there as well. Or it just might be the shadow, I don't really know. Right, moving on. This is basically the construction of the tramway, the one that's just collapsed. I've just shown you, and as you can see there, you have the roofs of your houses. One of the other things I was really looking at or trying to find was the construction of this complex, and this is the only thing that's come close that I've found. You know, but there's brickwork there. You know, the building, they're digging themselves out the mud. I really don't know on that one. The jury's out, but if they were digging the hole for this complex, how long would it have taken? Using horses and carts? There's some sort of rail tracks, but I mean, at the depth it would have needed to go over 2.25 acres. Didn't really make much sense to me, but it might make sense to you, so, you know, drop us a note. This is the end. 1967, the whole place was demolished Well, so they say it was all demolished. The pictures are very scarce of it. There's only two I could find. That was this one and this one, which is the telling one, really. I mean, that's the sandstone house that I do reference. But I'll just blow it up a little bit. I mean, not only the depth of it, these arches, but they've gone up to that level, and that looks like an inspection hall or a doorway that they've gone through to that level. You know, behind there, you have your double levels over here. You know, it's just an awesome picture, really, but it's such a sad picture to think that all that's gone. And these are your columns for, you know, what's there is an underground car park. But all these archways, I would think, are still there. They've only took the demolition back as far as there. Now, what's on the other side of them arches is anybody's guess. You know, is there as much, you know, going up that way underground? No idea. This is what it's like today. There's your house and there's your museum. This is your underground car park. There's your entrance to your underground car park. The other end near the sea, this is a bit of a raised area. It's a pedestrian way to get you from one side down onto the beach, really, without having to encounter the traffic. It's just another view of it, and that's down inside it. But I've got to ask the question, you know, this is road level, basically. This is actually built up, sloped up. But there must still be a good 40, 50 foot below there. Now, is that filled in now? Is it just left open? You know, the infrastructure's still down there. You know, heaven knows. Got no idea. Right, this next picture. Now, this image, it came up front to me on the Grand Hotel. Because as we mentioned on the Grand Hotel, these buildings are sat in the footprint of something else. Now, the blue bridge we've got here. Now, I'd like your thoughts on this. Is these areas that are fenced off? See the curve around there? Are they the same area underground that I've been showing you? Because if it is, this image was at least 15 to 20 years before this complex was built down here. So I'm really undecided about this picture. If that is actually the tops of buildings down there, this structure was here long before the official narrative. I mean, I don't believe the official narrative anyway. To finish off with, last year when I was at Scarborough, all this was nice sandy beach. I went along this year, there's all this mud. I went along 10 days after I took this picture and it's all covered up again. But this, the stream that I mentioned that must have been piped off years ago, this is where it would have drained out onto. Now, the real strange thing about all this mud, there's quite a lot of building material in it, really big sort of cut blocks. But what I've never found on North East Beach, I have quite a bit of experience in medieval pottery, a project I've worked on in the past. And all this area, I've never found on beaches before, was scattered with early medieval pottery. I'd even go as far as to say it was Tees Valley ware, and it was actually made around between 1150 to 1200. That's going by the timelines I've been taught. But the other real strange thing is, further along the coast, a bit further up to where I live, a place called Redcar. Last year, after the winter storms, it whipped all the sand off. And I'll see if I can get a few pictures up. carry on talking while I'm looking. The winter storms, it whipped all the sand off. And this is what it left. A sunken forest. Now the official narrative is it's just been rediscovered or re-unearthed after left over from the Ice Age basically. 7,000 years old. And apart from that, I never heard no more about it. I don't go with the official narrative on this. I really don't. I have a bad gut feeling about it. This timber, I don't believe, like we're told, that it's existed down there for 7,000 years. Now, my son went to see this site long before I did. One of the first things he commented on was everything's in mud. And the tree limbs and the tree branches and the trunks are all firmly set in thick, gooey mud. Now, I do know that this town, Redcar, has got mud flood evidence. How much evidence, I don't know. I haven't really looked around. But it's strange, this one, because I actually believe, and it was before the mud flood, came along, that this is only a couple of 100 years old, this forest. See, I would have thought with a site like this, you would have had every university descending on the place, carbon dating the place basically, to get to the bottom of it. But apart from the fact it was unearthed, and we've got to stick with the official story that it's 7,000 year old, I don't buy it. And I've actually got a sample of wood from there in my home. My son brought it back. And so anybody that can carbon date things or put me onto somebody, just to say how old this wood is, because I think it's more like 200 to 300 year old. But they're trying to say that it's 7,000 year old. And I'm not buying it. So that's about it for this video. I've just, hopefully put a few thoughts into people's minds, and don't always believe the official narrative, because the official narrative with this story is nonsensical. To have a massive area like that you've got to dig out 80 or 90 foot before you can even start building, and then once you've built such a wonderful structure, you fill it all in again, cover it over. I don't believe that for 1 minute. But thanks for watching, and please leave any comments, what your thoughts are on this. Bye for now. Hello, Dave here. Thanks for clicking on the video. I'm going to do an update on the aquarium, the Gala Land. I never thought I'd be doing updates so quick, but there's been a few strange happenings. I won't go into great detail about this place. I've done 2 videos on it already, but I'll skip over it quickly. But before I do, I really want to say, and a shout out to a lad in Scarborough that's been helping me out with all sorts of things with Scarborough history. I'm not from Scarborough, I'm just a tourist. And there's a young lad, Kelvin, he knows who he is. He's been helping me out greatly, One of the things I couldn't get anywhere was any sort of pictures of the build of the Grand Hotel. That was one of the things I was really after pictures for, and tried the museum services and they had nothing. And, this young lad come up with, some cracking pictures, and he has done from, he's really been helping me out a lot. So, big thanks to Kelvin for that. This place, right, I'll just whip through it quickly, the storyline. It was a Victorian complex, supposedly, built in Victorian times. Basically, there was a bloody big hole dug. They built this wonderful Victorian complex, and as you can see by the roadway that goes along the middle here, they buried most of it back again. As you can see here, these are the tops of houses, the tops of buildings. I don't know what the houses, what they are. And these little things sticking out here, these are the tops of houses. Oh, that's actually a false roof that's been put over there. But I'll show you that in a bit. It opened up as the aquarium, and not long after it was bought out, then it was changed to Gala Land. This roughly is the size of it. I might be a few foot out, 10 foot, 20 foot either way. But this is basically what we were told in Victorian times. The Victorians come along, dug a bloody big hole, with nothing more than picks and shovels, horses and carts. You know, this place must be about, I don't know, 30, 40 foot high. So you've got to take the foundations into account. Then you're talking about a stream that's been culverted off below that. So the depth you went down to, the amount of muck you have to move, it just defies belief, really. This is the place inside. Absolutely splendorous building. Absolutely beautiful. Give you some idea of the height of the place, first off. But the length of the place. I mean, looking up this alley here, I would think this is where the stream is supposedly culverted off underneath here. But I have some questions about that as well, but I'll get to that in a bit. This is just after it was completed in Victorian times. That's the phone call needed to get there. This in Victorian times, it's just after it was built completed. I've circled here because we're going to show you where the tram goes through there. And it says a lot about the building inside. This is where the tram goes through. Now the thing is here that really got me is the tram went through here into a purpose-built ballroom. Purpose-built glitzy ballroom. But these look almost like bare windows up the top here. It actually, somebody mentioned in one of the comments, it actually looks like a church pulpit almost, you know, one high above the ground, and you can just see the opening there. I mean, look at the size of that arch. I mean, what's all that about? You know, and the picture of where the tram goes through here, this also got me baffled because, you know, it's an internal ballroom, so why all the windows? I did think these were actually stone blocks, but looking a bit closer, they actually look like brickwork, but it doesn't make sense for the interior of the building. So these are the things I was questioning, really. Construction of the place. I can't find anything about construction. Or I couldn't. I found this picture when they were laying the tracks on the top, but the buildings are already established, as you can see, both sides. And there's another picture that I found, which was this one. Now, when you think of the monumental scale of digging that hole I've just shown you, down to a depth of God knows how long, how deep, sorry, you know, and this is the type of technology you're talking about at the time. Horses and carts, you know, picks and shovels. So, really, it's, well, the next one, this is before it was all built, this complex. I have a problem, this is only painting, I know. But they reckon the water was culverted off just prior to this being built. Now this is a painting long before even the Grand was built. Where's the water gone? Now I can see a pond there, I can understand that. But the size of this valley and what drains into this valley, you know, a good day's heavy rainfall would just blast this way straight through this. There doesn't appear to be any water down there going out, but, you know, it's only a painting, so. But this is a sketch of pretty much the same area, and long before the Grand Hotel, there's the Woods Lodgings up the top there. And what a flat area this is. You know, alright, there's a pond there, but, you know, a heavy downpour, unless that's already culverted off and piped off underneath there, which this next picture really shows that to a certain extent. Just blow it up a bit. See, this is the flat area I've just been showing you. That's the pond. And it looks as if it's been culverted off up there. That's all green. Then you have a pond, and then culverted off again. Oh, it's running through there. But, you know, it's a bit up in the air. But the thing is, the last video I made, as I do with all my videos, especially the ones in Scarborough, because I'm not from Scarborough, I'm just a tourist. I put out an appeal, basically. Anybody that's got information about this place, more I'm interested in the construction, who built it, when it was built, when the water was culverted off. You know, I wanted to know all these things because I couldn't find the answers to any of these questions I was asking. And then I had a strange email a few days ago, and it came by, you know, a friend in Scarborough who works for the museum service. And it was in the Scarborough News. And it's strange, nobody seems to have taken interest in this place, but, you know, 2 or 3 weeks after I put the video out about me not really believing the official narrative of this place, out comes a story about it in the paper. Now this bloke here, Jim Middleton, he's been absolutely fantastic with me. I mean, he must think I'm a right loon, some of the emails I've sent him, but he's been really great. He's helped me out with a lot of things, and it's a really good story. But as with me, you know, I try and look and read in between the lines, and you know, I'm not going to go through the whole story. It is a very interesting story, and I'll leave that in the link for you to read through. But the things that really got me, I've checked out this gadget, Eugene Birch, you know, he was involved in it. But all the questions that I was asking all come out here. You know, there were very few hitches considering the scale of the job. Not only involved the removal of huge amounts of rock and earth, which I questioned. Water pipes and drains had to be diverted, and the mill deck, which is what I questioned as well, had to be culverted and piped below the beach. So I presume that that pipe below the beach, below that complex. But anyway, I mean, the most dramatic, you know, thing that happened, 20 yards of mud collapsed in. But I found it very strange after I put out that video, there's been no interest in this place for quite a few years, and then suddenly there is an interest. But one of the things Jim includes is this quotation, description of the proposed work from the Manchester Courier dated the 16th of June 1874, giving an indication of the extent of the proposal. Now this is where it really, you know, the clock thickened, as I say. The site of the aquarium is the old horse and carriage stand, so well known to all the citizens of Scarborough, and the intention is to excavate the whole of the space and the adjoining roads. Well, you don't excavate roads. You know, you excavate roads if it's a Roman road that you're digging up on a archaeological site. You know, if you're digging a big hole to build a building in, well, you're digging a big hole. You know, it's this excavate of the whole space and the adjoining road that really got me. Which will give the site a wider area. Over the buildings, a wide carriage road will be formed, giving a handsome approach to the sands. And, you know, for me, that's quite telling. Just that clip there, but might be a whole lot more to the story. I did try chasing up the Manchester Courier for that date and that, but they're wanting money and subscriptions and that, so I'm not that desperate to know. So it's really strange how this is, you know, just suddenly popped up out of the blue. And I've read through this a few times. I really advise that you read it. It's a good story, although I don't agree with some of it, but that's just my own personal opinions on things, and that's all it is, my opinions. But this bit at the bottom, I had a little chuckle to myself last night. There is much that can be said about the history of the aquarium and Gala Land, and it may well be a subject we revisit in the future. Well, I wonder why that is. You know, I've had sparked people's interest. You know, because it's a part of Scarborough that's been forgotten, and they're just reigniting my interest. This is a couple of pictures here, really, that I'll finish off on. This is just after it was completely open, because it's still the aquarium. You can see it's called the aquarium. Photography was around, you know, photography was around at that time. This is the Grand Hotel, 5 years before that Victorian complex was started. So the quality of photography was quite stunning then. But sadly, with Gala Land, this wonderful place, I can't find any construction pictures. The great lad that's been helping me out in Scarborough, he's said he's going to pop in the library tomorrow at Scarborough, you know, to see if he can come across any pictures, because he doesn't have no pictures of the construction. And the thing that I bring into question really is, with such a wondrous building, and photography was around at the time, there's very little about it, you know. There's no, as it says in the article, there was no big fanfare on the opening, you know, it was nothing special. But when you think of the hundreds of families, in a sense, that were involved just in that one project, the hundreds of workers you would have needed, and then all the families with them, you know. And as, you know, maybe do another video with Scarborough and finding out, you know, during the Victorian era, the squatters era, as I call it now, that's me trouble without a pause fault. But, you know, the Victorians claim so much, and claim to have done so much, and what's getting proved on a daily basis now, that Victorians were basically squatters. They've come along and reused what was already there, or rebuilt on what was already there. So, this one's up in the air for now. Again, I want to finish off with this picture on the last minute really. Any help whatsoever, the museum services, Jim, Kelvin, you know, can explain these arches. This is the big hole that was dug for the complex. The complex has been demolished into its own footprint. Now, maybe they might have needed to build a retaining wall to stop all the mud from falling in on this complex. But what's all this with the arches? What's all this with the inspection holes going through there? What's all this about? You know, I don't know, and I don't really know where to look to find out. So, if you can help, you know, I'd be really grateful. So, you know, this project, this interest of mine, it's still up in the air. And, you know, if I find out any more, I'll certainly give you a shout. Thanks again for watching. Bye now.